in the future, for me, the numbers of touch points will probably not shrink. It will probably grow up again. And also the complexity in design will probably grow. And therefore, design systems will stay on our radar and will be a thing to deal with and to work with. And I'm very happy about it.
Hey and welcome everybody. This is a new episode of Digital Log, and this is me again, Robert. I'm your host today. And today's episode is called How to Ship UX Online Fast. And how does that come along with design systems and for whom it is relevant? Therefore, I'm talking today with Kai, and I'm very happy that you're here. So maybe you can just introduce yourself in a few words before we start right into the topic.
Hi, Robert. Thanks for having me. My name is Kleinschmidt, and I'm lead UX designer at Die Produktmacher. My focus in the daily work is to help our clients ship their products and their UX online fast and in a consistent way. And therefore, I'm working in the intersection of development and design mostly.
Thanks for your introduction, but why design systems? Why today? Why now?
That's a good question. I think design systems are a very hot topic today. So the need mainly, I think, comes from the ever-growing and especially nowadays growing number of touch points that you need to serve as a company if you want to launch a digital product. And you need to design for those touch points. Every one of us has a big number of devices nowadays to work with or to deal with. And it's notebooks, it's smartphones, it's watches and IoT devices nowadays. And the metaverse is going to AR and VR. So it's a growing number. And the design of a company's product needs to scale over all these touch points and the use cases involved. And of course, the companies want to have a consistent UX across all these touch points and have a multi-channel brand experience.
At least they should have.
At least
or they should aim for it.
Yeah, correct. And the problem is most of the time that the design does not scale as fast as their businesses do. And the same thing years ago already was identified by Apple and Google, and they wanted to ship with their app stores their apps worldwide, and they published a lot of apps at the same time, or in a short time at least. And they needed to have a system or a rule book for how to ship their design to such a big number of touch points.
So the old design Bible on the shelf is out of date.
Yeah, I would exactly say this. So that were the big companies, they started with it. And the smaller and mid-sized companies, I think they try to keep up as well nowadays and need also to serve all those touch points and omni-channel experiences. So they have the same problem, but maybe in a smaller size, but still the same thing to do. And often these companies, they act worldwide, internationally, and they grow fast, and they need to ship their design through the different teams worldwide, and they need to scale fast as well. And therefore, a design system is very helpful. And as you said, the holy Bible of style guides that you have in your shelf in a big folder with hundreds of pages, I think this is completely outdated. And even PDF files, of course, are not working anymore. So you need something digital, something dynamic, and design systems can do the job.
Yeah, and you dropped like the term of omni-channel experience, right? So it's not only that in a multi-channel world, all the different things have to exist in parallel, but we as a user, we jump through the different touch points several times a day, sometimes even several times an hour or in a minute, jumping from the watch to the phone or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's getting even more important to create this consistent user experience across all the different touch points. If you want to have like a brand experience that you want to transport to your customers and your users.
Yeah, absolutely.
But a design system sounds like a more fancy word for style guide. Is it something different? Is it just like a collection of 5 button styles and now I'm happy that I have a design system? Or what's a design system in your view?
So you are searching for official definition of what a design system is.
Yeah, I am.
And that's a tough one, because if you search for this, and you will find such a huge amount of different definitions, and some are wide, some are more narrow, but yeah, they circulate around a core, so to say. And I do really like a more general one coming from Brett Frost, the founder of Atomic Design, and he says that the design system is the official story of an organization and how they build and design their digital products.
But this is like an actual, as you said, is more like a general definition.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of room for interpretation, and still not quite clear to me what a design system is when I just hear that definition. Maybe you have like another example which narrows it down a bit more, makes it a bit more tangible what a design system is.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. One that I've found and that I really agree with, and I can say this is also something that I would support, is there is another definition from Jeremy Keefe from Adectio, and he said that a design system, and he really said it's a bit in a bit wider way, in a more understandable way, that the design system is a framework as well as a rule book for design. And a framework means, in his case, that a design system is consisting of design artifacts like styles, components, the style guides as well, and at the end of component libraries and pattern libraries. So you have directly usable elements in this design system. And the rulebook term says that there are also the guidelines to use these artifacts, to use these assets that you have for design, and how you build a product with it. So how you use all these elements and put them together. And this is making up the design system being something like the outer circle around these elements.
All right, coming back to my initial question. So is then design system just a more fancy word for style guide, or where's the difference?
I think the style guide is an integral part of a design system. And the style guide defines how you use design elements and design assets, but the design system brings both together. It brings the design assets to the design and the projects, and also accompanies it with these style guides. And then you have the whole package, and you can use this, and especially in the digital world, this is your single source of truth. And it's your solution, and I think it's an important solution to master design complexity that comes with those many touch points and multi-channel experiences.
Which is then the reason, or like the solution to how you can ship UX online fast, right? So, and then we have...
You name it.
yeah, we've rounded the whole thing off, talking about our topic today.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, but at the end, who needs a design system?
Good question too. So I see two different target groups for a design system. And the first one is the stakeholders, which would be the people shipping and selling the product at the end. And it's usually the department of the management of a company, the brand department, the UX department, and IT departments, and the PO at the end, who's really in charge of the product. Mm-hmm. And the second group is the contributors, so the people who really build the design system. And it's usually, of course, designers defining the design, and also conceptors and developers at the end.
Okay, and I find it very interesting because you, in your daily work and in your work with our clients, probably were already in both seats as a stakeholder and the contributor.
Yes, I was, yeah.
And so you're the best person to speak to when it comes. What are typical challenges our clients face when it comes to design systems or introducing a design system?
Yeah, as you can imagine, these problems are, and the challenges are diverse, and there are some typical ones, I would say, that are most common from our clients in my experience. And the first one we mentioned already in a side note, and it was the lack of consistency in the design, which comes with the growing of the company and the growing of the products, which is faster than the design can grow. And these things are getting out of sync. Then you have products that are old and some are new. And of course, the consistency at all is lacking. And to overcome this, the design system offer those those kind of libraries and reusable assets that you can out of the box use as a designer and also as a developer. And of course, this makes it easier to ship something and scale up the design. So you have the point of easier scalability as the first thing that is a big benefit, I would say. And the second one that comes to my mind is that if you don't have a design system, you do a lot of repetitive work most of the time, because you cannot use reusable things. You have to, if you do a change in your design, you have to go to place 1 and place 2 and change it manually. And this is all taking a lot of resources and effort, and it's a pain. And
so it's like with a design system, you can clearly answer yes or no to a question. Did I have that component already before starting it from scratch again? And do you have this as a repetitive work or repetitive component, and then it's getting out of sync again?
Yes, you have your repository and you can have a clear look. Is this already in my database, so to say, or is it not? And then you can simply reuse it. It's all built in this component. You know how to use it, when to use it, how does it look like. You don't need to think so much more anymore, and you just can build up your design with it. That makes the life a lot easier. And of course, the benefit that you have at the end is an efficiency gain, a boost up of your efficiency, and the processes, because of also design and development often use different workflows and different tools and individual ones. And for example, using Figma can help with that as a design tool, and also for design handoff to the developers to really streamline those processes then.
Yeah, and as you said before, to have the single source of truth and one like core where you can start and iterate with.
And that's exactly the point. The single source of truth is the thing that also overcomes the other thing that I had in mind, which is the gap of communication that you often have between designers and developers, or also between design teams if you have a bigger project. And this is also more or less overcome because the single source of truth unites all the people around the design in this source, and
like assure a connection between distributed teams or just distributed persons.
Yes. Yeah. And you speak about the same thing. It's defined how you name a component, how you say what's the name of it, what's the use of it. It's the same for all the people, and you can make better decisions as a designer or as a developer and ship, of course, more consistent products. So the last point is that you can have is this centralization of the whole system.
Yeah. And as a side effect, it improves communication between all the different people involved. Yeah. Because when you have identified namings or like namings that are set in stone, you can be sure that you're talking about the same thing, right? Because when I talked to some developers and I wanted to say something, they kind of had a different interpretation, or they just had different things in mind, and so the communication was not in sync. But talking about these things with like defined namings improves the communication as well. Yeah,
and that's the guidance that the system gives.
Yeah, and at the end, like there are some main challenges or typical challenges for clients that you just mentioned. But when setting up a design system or introducing a design system in one place, there are some certain obstacles. I think it's not as easy as it sounds, right?
There is nothing without obstacles, I would say. And if you want to build something complex like a design system and have a complex design, and you want to find a nice solution for it, then of course you also will face some obstacles. And a typical one is that you definitely need to think of the budget and the resources that you need to build up a design system. So if you would just design, then you would say, hey, well, why do I need it? It's extra effort. And especially at the beginning, you have maybe some more effort than it would be just without the design system. But this pays out at the end as soon as the scaling comes in. And a second thing is the adoption, for sure. So we have talked about the system as a dynamic thing. So it grows. It needs people who use it. It needs people who are ambassadors for it, who really work with it. You need the commitment of the business to it, and someone who maintains it and keeps it really alive.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And I would say the last thing, which is really, really important, I would say, is to make it not too complex.
So start small.
Correct.
Have
yeah.
like an iterative approach.
Exactly. Because if you make it too complex, then you make it hard for the people to use it. And if the people don't use it, then it doesn't make sense at all. So it's really important to keep it as lean and as simple as possible. And of course, at the end, no system is really like the other system. So if you have a client, then you make a design system for him. Of course, you can kickstart maybe your design system with some existing definitions. So out there are a lot of files and templates you can use as a design system kickstart. But at the end, you need to tailor it down to each client individually. That's for sure.
So your recommendation for all of the people out there in our audience that are currently thinking of a new design or kicking off a new design, your recommendation would be immediately start with the design system. It pays off at the end. So
that's at least my experience in design. You can start very early in the product phase and and can grow up with the design system.
Great. So number one recommendation that you have to take with you. How does it look like when you approach it in your daily work? So to speak, what is the DPM approach or your personal approach of kicking off or setting up a design system?
So what do you need if you want to make a system for a design? Of course, you need the design. And the companies approaching us at DPM, they either bring a design with them or at least a vision of a design with them. And if they don't have one, then of course we are happy to help to create one. But it certainly helps to have a design, because the next thing you would do is to look at a design that is given and you analyze it and you audit what is in the design. How complex is the design? And then you can match really the complexity of the design to the complexity of the design system that is needed. So you don't have to start always with the full-featured thing and make it big and complicated, but you can also start small and really start with some patterns or components and styles, and it already helps to scale up. And then the next step would be to really, if you have looked at the design, you can identify the components that are necessary, you can cluster them, and then you start small, with the smallest parts of the design, like a button and some colors and some typography styles. And then you go to the bigger ones, which are formed by the smaller ones, so that you end up at the end with the bigger components you can make a page of, for example, or design of.
We all love Lego.
That's a Lego analogy, which also probably Brett Frost had in mind as he was looking at the atomic design approach. Yes. And the next step would be, if you have the components, then you build the components, of course, with your design in mind, with your vision in mind. So you really apply the styles to fit the brand at the end. And there are also oftentimes some principles that you can see how these components work together. So what comes first, what comes then second, and so on. If you build up a page, and if you have your component ready to use and you have created also your guidance on it, then you can test it in its original surroundings. So test it in the live environment. So put the button you have created in your design and see, oh, it works like that, like I've designed it and envisioned it. And then you have your proof point here. And then you can document and really specify the button and make a style guide, a small style guide for the button. So how it is used, when to use it, and then you are ready with your component and hopefully at the end with your component library as well. And if there should be any change in the future, you are quite happy as a designer because you can change it once in your design system and in your component library, and it gets rolled out to all your designs automatically. But the maintenance for sure is also an important step which is necessary to keep it alive and dynamic.
And that sounds awesome, but I think we have to make it a bit more tangible, and therefore
I understand. Yeah.
And therefore, you have done it a lot. But what was the project that always is in mind when you think of that was a great achievement with design system that we have done for clients?
I can tell you of one example that was really just a recent one. It was finished at the end of last year, in this case, and it was a really complex one. We did a design system for a leading shopping reward company, and they had a product acting as a white label product. So they had, the company itself had different clients that they shipped their product to. So they had a core product, so to say, which is was then served with components typically. So the components had variations as well, so that you can, in the layout, do some variations. And then what was really the challenge and what was really nice to do is to create different style guides for the brands. So it was a multi-brand design system for over 30 brands at the end,
Oh, wow.
which was really quite a complex thing. And we consulted and helped the company building the component library, building up of course, the design for the components, specifying it, but also helped in the process and in onboarding new designers and the whole thing. So it was a bit of a fully featured thing, and I really liked working on this project. And the outcome was as expected, I have to say, and I'm really happy about this because we were at the end able, with just one click, to switch the design of a layout of a page directly in Figma. So it was very easy to mock up new designs based on our standard components that we have, and that was great to see.
Yeah, well, it sounds great. And actually, I have the feeling I missed a great project because that sounds really challenging, but also exciting.
A pity that we didn't work together.
Yeah, maybe
sure.
Maybe in the future, some possibilities.
That's
maybe.
more something for our head offs here.
Yeah, but great. I think we can, or we could talk for ages about this because I could listen to you for ages at least. So
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. But I think this is just like a basic episode, and I'm happy that we probably can produce some more episodes and go a bit more into detail then. But for the basics that we have spoken about today, what are the key takeaways that all the guys and girls out there have to take with them?
So from my experience with design systems, I would say the key takeaways, to sum it up, is take a lean approach, start small with it. Don't do the fully featured thing up front and make it complex. So you can probably do the thing in-house, maybe if you start small and start early. That's also important. And if your design system grows, then you can put maybe a team on it, a small team, then a larger team, and you can treat it as its own product as well. Mm-hmm. And another thing that we also mentioned earlier was the thing that you need to save and be totally aware of that it needs some resources up front. So there will be for sure some hours that you need to put in if you create a design system while you're creating your design. And of course, you need the commitment from the business and also the commitment from your colleagues and the whole team on it to do that. But for sure, it will pay out at the end to have this kind of a system, and
so it will outweigh the initial efforts.
Yes, correct. So it really, the turning point comes soon, I think, if you start small, and then you are much more efficient and you can scale up much more easy.
And the earlier you start, the earlier
you finish.
You finish, and the earlier the turning point of it's getting from effort to benefits, is then also easier, and not also easier, but earlier, I would say.
Yeah, and talking about finishing, as we said, the design system is never finished, so you need also the people.
A living document, as you said.
It is a living document, and you need the people who maintain it, and that's an important point, I think. And especially as a designer, I can say, and that's a nice thing about it, if you train yourself on creating this design system while you are doing the design, then you can get really used to it, and oh, now I need a bit of a pattern for this, or I need some more styles for this, and so on. So you learn those kind of things, and you can start even earlier and earlier, and then it pays out earlier as well, as you said.
So taking the systematically thinking as a mindset.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a good point. And it helps the designers, at DPM at least, I can tell it helps our designers a lot, and myself a lot, to think like this and really practice it as well. And then I think in the future, the last conclusion is, in the future, for me, the numbers of touch points will probably not shrink. It will probably grow up again, and also the complexity in design will probably grow, and therefore design systems will stay on our radar and will be a thing to deal with and to work with, and I'm very happy about it.
Better be prepared.
Yeah, better be prepared.
So thank you very much for being here. I enjoyed this discussion a lot.
You're welcome. Yeah.
And thank you guys for watching or listening. And if you like this episode, then of course we would like to hear your feedback. And also, if you have some feedback about design systems from your experience, you can also put it in the comments. No comment will be unanswered at the end. So we are eager to hear your feedback. And if you liked it, of course, please like and share, or give us a 5-star rating at Apple Podcast. That would be awesome. And all I can say at the end, thank you very much. And hopefully you tune in another episode of Digital Log. Thanks and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.